Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman was the first Democratic senator to visit Mar-a-Lago, and he says he's committed to working alongside Republicans, but can he find a middle ground with an administration that has spent the first week in power destroying Democratic Party policies, and let's say he's a little shaky with democracy. Okay? So please welcome to our table, finally, in reality, Senator John Fetterman.
Oh, how nice of you to repurpose your inauguration outfit.
Is there a new dress code here or something?
You know there's no dress code here. It's hard to believe it's only been a week since the former president has retaken office. You were there at inauguration. He's been attempting to flex his power. But are you surprised by anything? I didn't even see what that was.
He's wearing a similar outfit at the inauguration, and you looked great.
I totally feel you. Okay, I get you. So, but are you surprised at anything you've been seeing, or do you anticipate that there's going to be changes that we should be prepped for that we're not thinking about?
I mean, honestly, I haven't been surprised by anything now. I mean, he's been doing essentially what he actually campaigned on that. He announced he is going to pardon the J6 individuals. He is going to absolutely go after the border. So there's a lot of things that he's already ran on. I mean, criticized a lot of it, and I don't agree with everything either, but it's undeniable he actually ran on that and been really upfront. He's like, I am your reputation, and he's, kind of making those moves. So that's kind of where we're at. Early on, immediately after the election, I was like, hey, we have a choice. We can freak out and follow every other thing around, like a cat, with a laser, after every one. But I'm not that guy. I'm not going to be that Democrat. For me, there's things I'm going to agree with, I'm going to disagree with, but I'm in the business of finding wins for Pennsylvania and for the nation, and engaging the president. I think I see that as doing my job.
Well said. And I wanted to ask you, so you went down to Mar-a-Lago and met with the president, and he actually was singing your praises after. He said you were fascinating, impressive, a common sense person. I agree with him on that. Not a liberal or a conservative. I'm curious what your takeaway was from meeting with him, and what, if you found that there's any specific policy areas you think you can work with him on.
Yeah, well, I think overall it was a positive experience. I mean, he was kind, he was cordial. It wasn't in any kind of theater. It wasn't trying to get your picture taken to kind of put something out on social media. It was just really a conversation. I actually spoke for over an hour. And overall, my wife was there, and she might be watching right now at home. Hi, Giselle, if you're home. And she was there as well, too. And we just had a conversation. And one of the things, can we agree on? Well, one of the things that was easy, like the Dreamers. The Dreamers, immigration, that. And Giselle was part of that community, and we both had the opportunity to express that. I would also, I'm on the Ag Committee, and I think protecting the SNAP as well, too. Food insecurity is really important issue. And some people on that side wants to go after that or weaponize that. So for me, those are kind of issues. Other things that we can agree on as well. But overall, it was just a straight up conversation, and I just have a rule. Like, I'm going to engage and have a conversation that's anyone playing it straight, and that's doing my job again.
You did get a lot of criticism for it from some people who thought you going to Mar-a-Lago gives cover to Trump by creating the solution that he's amenable to working with Democrats. I was very supportive of when people like Mitt Romney and Rob Portman worked with Joe Biden, so I understand the need for bipartisanship. I didn't love the optics of you going to Mar-a-Lago. He was going to, which is his palace. He was going to be in Washington a week later. But what was your goal, and do you feel ultimately you were successful?
Well, here's what happened. I was being lazy on the couch like Friday night, and my team reached out saying, hey, and I don't know if this is like a trolling or a hoax, but they extended an invitation. What do you think? I'm like, well, I mean, if they're playing it straight, then I think it's pretty reasonable to have a conversation, inviting me to engage, and I visited it. So maybe some people would be critical of that, but for me, engaging the president, I think when you're in this business, I mean, that's part of the job. Any more you would criticize Governor Newsom, that received the president there after the fires in California. They are going to find a way to work together. I mean, that's where we are. And I hope maybe you are watching are tired of just like the venom and the hate. And it's like, I'd like more bipartisan kinds of things. And you are going to agree with things, and you're going to disagree on things. And I'm going to pick my fights. And I'm not going to, and I've chosen not to add to the cheap heat online or go after those kinds of things. I've never found that helpful. And if those kinds of things were helpful, we would be in a different situation. We'd be the ones making those kinds of decisions with the new administration, with then Vice President Harris.
Yeah. Well, Senator, Trump's pardoning of roughly 1,500 January 6th rioters on his first day back in office is still reverberating. And when we last spoke with you in December, you were critical of Joe Biden having just pardoned his son, Hunter. So although President Trump ran on doing this, there was a discrepancy, and a lot of people in his inner circle said he wouldn't do it for violent offenders. So there was some surprise in what he ended up doing.
Of course not. I'm on record criticizing going after Hunter Biden. And I also agreed that the trial in this city, in New York, was politically motivated, that wouldn't otherwise have been prosecuted if it was someone else. And I've been very front and center in pardons. I chaired that process in Pennsylvania. I was all about delivering second chances, and I was very proud of that. And I think that's really the cornerstone of criminal justice reform is if you are following the rules and you've paid your debt. I do believe you do. I do believe there needs to be a path for redemption. And this process, whether Joe Biden or whether President Trump, I don't agree with many of those pardons, especially on the J6 ones. And I've called that out. I've been on record saying that that's just not true. If you're going to abuse the process, somebody that's been very committed as part of that, has made that part of my career. I think it's sad because it's been politicized. And I think, if anything, that might have set some things back because people assume now, depending on what team's in office, those are the people that get some redemption.
I just for clarification, did you mean that the 34-count case in which Donald Trump was found guilty of various financial crimes was politically motivated here in New York?
I found that when the judicial system gets weaponized and targeted political enemies for political gain, I think that's inappropriate, and I think that degrades our collective trust in this a very important institution, whether that's on a Democratic going after a Republican or a Republican going after a Democratic one. And I like to think I call it strikes and balls, because the judicial system has to remain impartial. I mean, that's really the cornerstone of our society.
Would that be the way that things worked? Wouldn't that be great if that's the way that things actually worked?